Goldblum is so Goldblum. I mean,
he's basically Sinatra at this point.
He is
it's
literally...
Like, sometimes I have to remind him to be less Goldblum and be more Wolf King.
He is truly, you know, I had never met Jeff before. He was everything I had hoped and more in terms of just how present he is and how fun he is and how much he loves what he does. And so it was also really fun to work with him.
Yeah, and that is the thing. It's like he was in for 3 days. He wasn't getting paid. And he showed up and just gave it everything. And I think it was fun for him because he doesn't usually play a bad guy. And that's one of the ways that I got this amazing cast to come and make the movie with me is I think kind of by casting sometimes against, if not type, than what someone's been doing for like the last few years. And it just made it more delicious for people to kind of sink their teeth into for a few days.
I imagine Goldblum is a little bit like Walken at a certain point where it's almost hard for him to not do a read or a line with a certain cadence. That's just
you
how
would
it
imagine
is.
correctly.
But I think there's, I mean, I just having watched him, you know, there is this kind, I mean, he is so indelibly himself, but there is this like creative integrity and appetite that is, and not that Christopher Walken doesn't have that, certainly he does, but that Jeff is really like he riffs in his mind. I mean, he's a jazz musician. You know, this is another thing that I learned about him through this process. We went to see him play live jazz in LA while we were shooting the movie, and you know, he really
good? No.
Yeah, amazing. He has the mind of you know, his mind is that of a jazz musician, and so he riffs on things, you know, and we'd be talking, and he'd be like, I think, you know, we should do Death of a Salesman. Like, I want to do Death of a Salesman, you know, and then he'd start reciting lines of Willy Loman before Drew yells action and get himself into this emotional place that, you know, is Willy Loman, but then that he would kind of put into the Wolf King in this moment. I mean, it was...
And sometimes he's singing before a take. He's often... And then as a director, you have to kind of adapt to that and work with it. So I found that, like, giving him esoteric direction really helped. So when we were doing... There's a scene which is particularly dark for his character. And, you know, one of the ways I would get him there is each time I would have to, you know, usually, you know, when you're working with an incredible cast, it really is a case of, like, a little smaller, a little bigger, a little faster, you know. Whereas with Jeff, it was like, okay, this time, I want you to imagine you're one of those kind of Irish drunks that 4 drinks in just turns and becomes evil. And he's like, yeah, I got it. And he does that literally like he's playing jazz or listening to a meter. And then he's just in it.
He actually literally grabs it.
I do think he's like playing the cadences, like as he's like,